Now, I'd like to introduce our next guest speaker, Mr. Andrew Kamau, is the CBS Principal Secretary, the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining in the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Kamau was reassigned the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining in February 2021, having held the role of Principal Secretary for the State Department for Petroleum since January 2018. Mr. Kamau has more than 25 years' experience in mining and energy across the public, private, development and NGO sectors. As an oil trader, he negotiated credit and supplied refined petroleum products to a range of African countries, including the DR Congo, Zimbabwe, Zambia and DRC, using South Africa and Mozambique, and developed tender and supply contracts on behalf of the government of Sudan. More recently, he was active in the power sector in DR Congo, successfully negotiating a contract for the rehabilitation of the Inga power station. He has also been a director of Sally's Limited, Drillex Limited and junior oil explorer Gulf of Guinea Petroleum Company. He has also been the chairman of non-profit organisation Kamati Foundation. So, Mr. Kamau, I'll call you up to the stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. First, I want to say thank you to the organizers of Africa Down Under, PayDebt, for getting me to come to Australia, my first time here. And I have to say that it's been a real eye-opener. Kenya is a frontier country. I guess it makes it quite interesting for Australian companies because from what I see, Australians seem to have a very frontier mindset. They're prepared to go anywhere and they're not afraid of anything. The country is only 40% explored, but we've just completed our airborne survey and we hope to have the results out by the end of this year. And for this reason, of course, you've heard a lot about how we've had a moratorium on the issuing of new licenses, which I will speak to later on in my presentation. In the past, we've had quite a few interesting developments. We've had rare earths, which most of you have followed, gold, heavy mineral sands, which are currently being explored by an Australian company, Base Resources, and also coal. In the informal sector, we've discovered colored gemstones and coltan, which we hope to commercialize shortly. Our mining legislation, we have a Mining Act from 2016, which replaced the 1940 Mining Act. And we're in the process of relooking at it because of all the experiences that we've had since 2016 and the issues that have been there to see how we can tweak it so that we can protect not only the country, but also investors and make it a better place for everybody. On the Financial Act, we do have some tax incentives, the provision to carry forward losses, accelerate depreciation of assets, and CSR contributions are allowed for deductions. We have looked at our ESG laws, and recently we did have an ESG audit with the London Stock Exchange in a view to dual list between London and the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And we're hoping to have our first dual listed company by the end of this year. We've also managed to have dual listed green bonds, both in Nairobi and in London. And we look forward to having convinced the Australian Stock Exchange to have similar dual listing. Because after all, in Kenya, as you may know, we have no foreign exchange restrictions and people are allowed to bring in foreign exchange and repatriate their profits. Kenya also has, on the infrastructure side, a well-developed port of Mombasa and a new port in Lamu, which is a deep water port and can take up to 22 meters draft. We also have a new railway line from Mombasa to the middle of Kenya, and we have our existing Uganda railway, which has been recently rehabilitated. 80% of the power that's produced in Kenya is renewable, and we also have 80% of the people of Kenya have power connectivity to their homes. So that's 80% energy access. We are trying to develop it further so that we have 100% before 2030. So what are our challenges? I think the first one has been, like I told you, Kenya is a frontier country, is access to data, geological data. And we hope after the campaign that we've undertaken on geological survey, airborne, we will be able to have that posted on the new cadastre, which we're currently developing. The question is, why did we decide to build a new cadastre? First of all, where it was housed was not in Kenya. So we had our geological data housed outside the country. We had people holding acreage from the 1940s, 1950s, and we were not sure what they were doing with it. So we needed to clean up the cadastre to allow new mining companies to come and explore new minerals. The third one was we needed a transparent system. So the country was going through a digitization of all land assets. Company registration is digitized, so you can register a company within a day. We needed to have the way we look at companies, individuals, tax, so that it's all within one point of call. So once you apply for your mining license, your prospecting license, it's all done electronically. You don't have to come to the ministry, you don't have to know anybody, as long as you're able to upload the documents that can be verified by the system. So do you have land consent? Is your company a real company? Do you have the right tax registration? All those things can be verified now within 10 minutes. So once your license is in, you can then follow it up electronically to find out where it is and where it is stuck and follow it up from there. And that's why we needed to have a new cadastre. We also needed to be able to have, in addition to have it transparent, we needed people to go and have a look at the data that was available, where they could acquire it. Now, one of the conditions that is there in our Mining Act is that we would like people to list at least 10% of the company. Now, this is not always very easy because those of us who are in mining understand the risks that are incurred in the exploration and in the production. There are many, many people who invest in real estate, for example, who would not understand why the cost of their capital has shrank. And these are the kind of things that we need to educate the investor in Kenya. So not only looking for investment in Australia, for Australian mining companies, but also looking for similar investment through our pension funds in Kenya, through people who come and invest in Kenya. Because as you may know, in Kenya, you do not require to be a resident to hold a bank account in Kenya. So we have non-resident bank accounts. So these are things that we need to consider as you also invest on the rest of the continent. Kenya can be that place where you can bring in your investment through. So what are the lessons that we've learned coming to this conference? One of the things that has become very clear from Australians is do not be the quarry of the world, which I thought was a really interesting perspective given by the Australian companies and the Australian government. Add value. Now, we were talking earlier on with my colleagues, and we were saying, well, it looks like we're a bit late. Everyone is really moving ahead with exploration. But the more I listen to what is being spoken about, it's not exactly what the energy transition people tell you, that we're all going to go to e-mobility tomorrow. We're all going to have electric cars tomorrow. If you look at the requirement, I think there was one company in the previous session said that if they were to produce all the graphite that they had in Tanzania, it's still 0.5% of what would be required by Tesla. Forget about Nissan, forget about Toyota and all the other companies. We have graphite in Kenya, but the most interesting thing about it is that everybody knows it's there, but it's a waste. People are mining gemstones, and in the process, they're finding graphite. People have known there is coltan in Kenya for years, but it's not being mined on a commercial scale. So I think for us, what we've learned is, number one, don't be the quarry for the world. Australia is definitely a place to come to look for investors due to the frontier spirit. And because of the carbon footprint that is there now in mining, we need to have value addition of the ore in Kenya to at least an intermediary product, if not to the final product, to reduce the carbon footprint. And finally, critical minerals, which is probably where our strength as Kenya lies. We need to develop that and find out how we can, not only for our own national interests, but for the interests of all people who are interested in climate change. And with those few remarks, I would just like to say that Kenya is open for business, and you're very welcome. So thank you very much.